show and the new podcast, Nutrition Education for All, with our host, Kelly Springer. Kelly, how are you? Our inaugural podcast episode, and I know you're excited about our guest.
I am so excited. We have Pearl with us today. And Pearl is a naturopathic empowerment coach, an author, and health wellness expert with over a decade of experience. She specializes in helping women put themselves first, which we can all do, right, Pearl? And build self worth, thrive, mind, body, and spirit. Pearl's mission is to empower women to become the SHERO of their own lives, guiding them to embrace self care and unlock their full potential. So, welcome, Pearl, to our very first podcast, which is pretty timely because today, I guess, it is Entrepreneurial Women's Day
I
today. So,
didn't
I
know
know
that.
yeah, I just saw it on LinkedIn. There's a day for everything, I guess, but I think it's pretty timely that we're speaking as our very.
That's so cool. Congratulations. I'm so excited to be your first guest. I can't wait to see all the great success you're going to have and how you empower others through your podcast.
Well, thank you. I think that you are doing the same today. So I want to kind of dive in and hear about you and what you do because I think we all want to be sheroes. And as having two teenage daughters, I want to encourage them right in my home and then also the women that work with me. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so thanks so much. So, as you introduced myself, I am a mental fitness life coach, author, and speaker. And I am my own Shiro. If you had asked me before I figured out who the heck I was, I would have told you I was all my titles: wife, mom, PTA volunteer, all those things. And in 2015, I had to go through this journey after deciding I was going to go from just health and wellness and helping somebody with their weight loss to becoming more of a life coach. And so I took this identity and destiny course. And at the end of 6 weeks, you're supposed to give your I am statement. And so I gave my statement that I was still all my titles. And a person I met in a class called me out on it and said, hello, like, did you not pay attention? And I was like, I guess I really didn't pay attention or get the message. And so I realized I was a people pleasing addict. I needed to figure out how to stop showing up for everybody else and not showing up for myself. So I knew the word no had to become part of that life part journey. So one day I was walking out and there was this rock on the floor and I picked up this rock off the ground. I was like, with this, I'm going to put it in my pocket. I went to go to and at the event, somebody do something and my hand went across my pocket where the rock was. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, oh, wait, I didn't mean for it to come out like that. And so she was like, you can or you won't. I'm like, no, what I mean is I love you doing fundraisers for dogs and cats, but I just can't do that. I love them. And so that started my journey to showing up and saying no to others. I decided that day I didn't die from telling her no. So I decided I was going to start saying no to something 3 times a day. And so at the end of the day, if I didn't come home and had said no, I either had to text, email, or call somebody to tell them no to something. And as I did that, that's where Shiro started to develop. I found myself becoming stronger and understanding that no is a complete sentence as much as yes is. And so then as I started to be able to be stronger and it took a good 30 days to really be able to go like no without the guilt, without thinking that I'm selfish, with all those things that we sabotage our brains with. I started becoming happier. I was sleeping at night. I wasn't stressed out because I didn't show up and do something for Neil or I didn't get that email to you, right? And so then as I become happier, I started like, this feels pretty good. So I became empowered to share the message of, you know what, we can say no. And also I wrote my first chapter in a book and I started to do things that putting myself out there that I had held myself back for so long. And as I did that, I was showing up in rooms where maybe I had not been before. Maybe I didn't feel like I was empowered or worthy to be in. And so I have what I call this radiant glow up. People would go, what's different about you, Pearl? Like, did you cut your hair? Have you lost weight? And really, it was that glow up, that radiance of about who I was. And then I showed up for my original self. I wanted to be an elementary school teacher growing up, never went on that path. But here I am today. I'm coaching and teaching women to understand you have to say yes to you first. Because if you don't, like you were talking earlier, you have teenage daughters, right? We're not showing them how important it is to be able to put ourselves first. And you can't be there for your family, your job, or even your business if you're not 100% with you first.
I love that. And I think I want you to talk a little bit more about the rooms that you've been able to get in now that you have taken
Yeah,
the chance.
love that. I just this week got to present to Citibank, one of my all-time goals is to be able to do more corporate training. And I just spoke to their top 50 leaders around the world. We did it virtually because, I'm in Florida. We were supposed to do it in person and we've got through 2 hurricanes. And so they said, we're just going to do it virtually to make it happen. And I spent 3 hours with them, training them about stepping into putting yourself first, training them about our judge and our saboteurs and how we're either people pleasers or we can be sticklers. We think we have to control everything. So we worked on that. We train on tiny habits and really it's really great. I've had like 3 or 4 people already reach out to me afterwards going, I need more. So being there, being asked to speak on stages, but the one thing that I'm the most proud of is I get to do these amazing retreats. I'm actually having my 9th retreat coming up this year. It's a pajama retreat, no makeup, all in your PJs, and it's called Soulful Self-Care. And we just go to the beach. We work on self-development, personal care, as well as yoga, and we have massages and all kinds of fun stuff. But you have to be in your PJs or yoga pants and no makeup the entire weekend.
Well, I
Wow.
think we could all use that. I think that sign me up because
Now,
We have
Kelly,
spots left.
so being, a dietitian, Kelly, how important are you looking at mental health in that specific aspect of improving, especially when you're working on their nutrition and their dieting and everything?
well, it's a huge importance, and it's interesting how all of this is now intertwining. And that is why we really did start the podcast so that we could see how these things really do go together. And I think, with speaking with you, just getting to know your story a little bit, Pearl, I think we all have a story that maybe is similar. So that's where the relatability, and this is where you're getting into those rooms and getting these retreats, is because we are struggling, as females in particular. Our nutrition, I just did a mindful eating class right before this, and females in particular are multitasking more than anyone I know, right? So from doing this morning before I left to come here, I did the laundry, started the dishwasher, fed the cats, and did 2 TV spots. And my husband got up and left for work. So, and I love him to death, but I think this is why the relatability of females and really getting to that SHERO, I think it really hits home for so many of us.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing what I call a CEO mom. I have an amazing sister-in-law. I went to go visit them a few years ago with my brother. My nephew was around 4 or 5 years old, and she's like, "Hey, come upstairs. Sean's got to put his clothes away." I'm like, "He's like 4 years old. My kids are like teenagers by now, right?" And I'm like, "I didn't have my kids." And she goes, "Pearl, listen, we're all a team here. I have to work and run a house, so he needs to learn how to do this." And literally, like that's what. And I looked at her, I go, you're right. I need to use this. And I asked her, I said, can I get permission? She's like, yeah. So really you're building a CEO mindset at home. Like you are a team, like teaching your kids how to be part of this journey also helps you with your self-care. And it shows you're not selfish. It doesn't have to be selfish, but that they're all part of this team. And, and it all ties to as well as like you're talking about, like, I love you talking about you did a class on mindful eating. It all ties together because we beat ourselves up when we aren't the best mom, or the best wife that we think we can be. And so, and then what do we do? Sometimes if you're an emotional eater, like I used to be an emotional eater, you go and get something out of the fridge or that cupcake, or you go to Starbucks and get that cup of coffee that's so bad for you, and you do all those things. And so that was one of the things that I love when I was doing my coaching before I went into life coaching. I would have clients come in. I worked at a clinic, and oftentimes the lady who ran the clinic, her clients would come on my calendar because they would be like, I want to talk to Pearl. She doesn't like make me feel bad because I had a cupcake I wasn't supposed to have. Because I would be like, so tell me what's happening. Like, what was going on? What was the emotion? What was worrying you that day? And I would talk about like what was on your mind. And so, like I said, oftentimes I would end up on my calendar, and that's what led me to do this coaching. But I love, like you said, oftentimes we as women, we think we have to do everything. Like you said, you did all this stuff, then your husband gets up and go to work, right? But if we can have conversations too in our household to say, hey, and that's really what happened to me. Like people say, how did you start telling your family you have to start doing self-care first? I call it my core, communicating our realistic expectations. Like have a conversation with those in your home, those at work, wherever that is, be like, listen, I need to do more for me so I can be present for you. So I don't get stressed off making you a grilled cheese sandwich or something, before you got to run out the door. And so this is what I'm going to do. I literally told my kids, like I said, they were freshmen and junior in high school at the time when I figured this stuff out. And I was like, I might go in the room and either read a book or take a bath. And unless the house is on fire, your dad can get you where you need to go, you know? So I always say it's like you have to communicate that with others. And if you don't get it done, it's not the end of the world, right? It's okay. There can be dirty clothes in the, you know, in the laundry or dishes in the sink. The end of the day is what did you do for yourself?
Well, and I do think that getting real, I think the people that are the most successful on social media, and not that you need to share everything, but the people that have the highest following are the people that are real, that laundry isn't done and, it's piled up or something. I mean, anything that can be relatable. And I think that's where nutrition needs to come back down. So somebody said the other day that, about our profession and even in your profession too, we need to make it more normalized where we can reach out to people like ourselves to get help. And I think I said, I think therapy came a long way when Tony Soprano back in 1998 was seeing a therapist. But think about it, that was new, right? Not a lot of people were in therapy, and he got some flack for doing that. And I think this is where what you're doing and what we're doing in nutrition is finally coming, which is really exciting to see.
I love that you talked about that. I was just having this conversation with a new client the other day. She came to work with me and she's like, she'd been with another coach before. And I'm like, so why me? Like, what's so important? And she's like, because you're real, you're relatable. You know, I share the story of my everyday life. I share the story of losing one of my boys 2 years ago in a car accident. I share the story that life is real, life happens, and how you respond to it can make a big difference in your life, you know. And I share, and she's like, you're just real. And I'm like, your last coach? No, I started finding out she shared this stuff, but when I saw her behind the scenes, that's not who she was. And I was like, well, I'm glad you're here because that's who I am. I show up as who I am in my life because why am I going to say anything different? But I also love that you brought up the therapist part because I was one of the guests that was at my retreat a couple years ago. She was like, well, you guys aren't trauma coaches and you guys aren't trauma therapists. You call it. I said, listen, therapists only get so much time with their clients. Like I actually have therapists that refer their clients to me because they're like, I only get this window to work with them where they can come and send them to me and I can help them do some other things, other homework that maybe their therapist wants them to work on and bring it down and make it relatable and a little bit easier than what a therapist can do in like 30 minutes, 20 minutes time. So I love that you talk about that because I feel too like we're on this newer understanding and acceptance of therapy and of coaches because of the time frame that we get with our doctors and so forth. And I think mental health and healthy eating, they go together for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, Kelly, how does that relates in your practice? Explain when you work with clients.
Well, I just did a presentation for a large medical group, and I said exactly that, Pearl. I said, listen, all you doctors and nurse practitioners and PAs in the room, how many of you get 12 hours with your client to focus on nutrition? Well, of course, no hand was raised, right? And so that I'm like, that's my point. Insurance will cover us to see that person multiple times, throughout the year, and we're able to really lead them through a journey and have that time and learn about their families and their kids and who is a picky eater and are they working the night shift. We can really get into a lot of things around food, and just like you can around that, what's happening in their lives, right? And getting down to that nitty gritty. So we have the opportunity to see them so much more and be there as a true companion and educator.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that's available to all of us. I have a coach, I not only got coach clients, but I have a coach and we have to be able to have that because like you said, everybody's lives are so different, especially if you're working with a single parent, their lives aren't, they're doing everything and they need to be able to take time for themselves too and have some mindfulness, especially when it comes around health and wellness for them and their family.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. And it's our time. That's what everyone's telling us as well. I think the whole universe is ready for this. We're ready to get healthy. I know there's a whole movement right now in DC, no matter if you won or lost a couple Tuesdays ago. I think that there's a true movement towards this make America healthy again. I'm not sure what the whole thing is, but I do feel the pendulum switching and swinging more over to this, let's get healthy together.
Yeah, I think it's so great. I love that you're doing that. I love that you're helping carry the message forward because I totally agree with you. I actually have a theme for my next year. My theme next year is it's time for my journey. So I love that you're doing that. I'm with you too. I'm glad to hear that this movement's happening because it definitely needs to happen.
It does. It does. I agree. Well,
So,
I'm so glad. Go ahead, Neil.
no, I was going to go back to you, Kelly. I mean, based on, the what Pearl has been able to talk about, it's exactly what is needed to you don't have the healthy brain, you don't have the self-care, you're not going to be able to reach those other goals, right, Kelly?
No, it's true. I mean, I'm glad to talk to you today, Pearl, because I don't think I've been putting myself first, honestly. And my health is slipping a little bit. I have to go to my primary care doctor tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And I'm taking that time to go. But I was already preempting of what I'm going to say when I see her. Of like, I'm not exactly practicing what I preach, especially in the way of exercise right now. But having this conversation with you today, I think really did help me. And I hope it helps a lot of other people as well. But I really have to start putting that first because if I don't have my own health, if I'm not taking care of me, I really can't take care of others.
I love that you're saying that. It's so true. And I think the easiest way to start, so if somebody's listening and isn't sure where to start, I always say make a list of what brings you joy and take the one thing that's the most that stands out to you and work on that one thing for 30 days. And then you find steps that you work on that first and it starts to become easier. And I love just picking a spot to start.
That's perfect. I think that's great. And my start will be this afternoon of going out for a walk. So you just encouraged me.
Yay! I love it.
All right. Well, it's fantastic. Pearl, where's the best place people can find information on you and stuff?
Oh, you can definitely find me everywhere on social media. On YouTube for Conversations with Pearl. You can go on TikTok. It's just Pearl Chairenza. Or if you want to learn more, you can just email me info@wsliving.com.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kelly. Best place people can find info on you.
Yes, you can go to kellyschoice.org. You can book today. And we're also on Instagram at kellyschoice_nutrition. Putting out lots of fun things coming up. Is going to be some giveaways. Everyone's going to love that for December. But thank you, Pearl, so much for being our first guest on this podcast and getting it kicked off. You were fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
Great
All right.
success.
That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and nutrition education for all, guys. Take care.